The future of cryptocurrency is now.
Yo, what up? This is Paul Stryer with BitcoinBeginner.Rocks. Thank you for joining me. We're going to do a video on how to upgrade AMD GPUs BIOS. Don't be nervous, it's not as complex as it sounds. Until recently, I've always used NVIDIA 1070s for all of my mining. Well, as you know, you can't find GPUs anymore, and when you do, people are gouging like crazy. And so I came across 50 AMDs, new in the box, for a reasonable price, so I snapped them up. As soon as I got them, I slammed them into a rig, and bam! As always, right out of the gate, we got problems. You know, just for once, I'd love it if a rig could just work. You put the cards in, you hit the power button, and bam! It just works. Well, that never happens. You gotta take all the risers out, put one in, turn it on, and then wait for it to boot. And then turn it off and put in number 2, and then wait for it to boot. And then turn it off and put in number 3 and wait for it to boot. You can't just put in all 12 and turn it on. It never works. And you have to do them one at a time. If I do the first 3 and it works, and then I put in 7, it doesn't work and you gotta start back over at 1. I don't know why. I think the machines are just like prodding you to be frustrated. So anyways, I found these AMDs, I put them in, they weren't working, and I tinkered with them until I got them all up and working, and I had 9 in this particular machine at the time, and they were all different speeds. So I had some going 24 mega hash, some doing 25 mega hash, some doing 27 mega hash. It didn't make any sense. I've never had that happen with the NVIDIAs. So after much researching, I figured out that I had to upgrade the BIOS and make all the time straps be the same. So I went out, figured out how to do this, and I modified all my GPUs, and then they came up and they all were running 28 to 29 mega hash without any overclocking or underpowering. And they all seem to be pretty stable. So I'm doing this quick video for you to simply show you the process of what I went through to upgrade my AMDs. Here's a quick agenda of what we're going to look at in this video. First, we're going to look at why you want to modify the GPUs. Then we'll look at some of the software and tools that you need to actually do this procedure. And then we'll get into the procedure, which means we're going to copy from the GPUs, the BIOS, into what we call a ROM file. And then we'll copy that from the mining rig over to your PC. Then we'll use a couple of tools, one of them being the PolarisBiosEditor, to edit the time straps to 1500 on each one of these ROM files that we created from the GPUs. Then we'll copy that new saved file back to your mining rig, and then from the mining rig we'll put it onto each one of the GPUs. Then in the very last thing we'll do is we'll reboot the rig. Here's a list of 3 tools you're going to need to perform this operation. First is the ATIflash. This command's already built into EthOS, so that means there's nothing to download. The second one is the PolarisBiosEditor. So go to bit.ly/BCB for Bitcoin Beginner PolarisBiosEditor and download the version that you need for the computer that you have. If you're on a PC, then you would download the exe file. The third file we're going to download is WinSCP. This is a tool that allows us to use SSH to transfer files. So go to bit.ly/BCB WINSCP, and this you can download this free software. Here's a list of commands and steps that we're going to use to perform all the functions to upgrade the BIOS in your AMD GPUs. So the first thing you're going to do is at the console of your EthOS mining rig, you're going to type sudo, sudo, ATIflash -I. This will give you an output of what GPUs are in your system and what their number is. Like in mine, you're going to see we have 9, so it'll be 0 to 8. So you can have a number associated with each one of the GPUs. The next thing you're going to see is sudo ATIflash -S and then the GPU number like 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, and then give it a file name. And that way, when you hit enter, it'll create that file on the flash drive or the hard drive of your mining rig. The next step was we'll use WinSCP to transfer those files that you created, those ROM files, to your computer, your PC. Then we'll use PolarisBiosEditor to change the timestamps in each one of those BIOS files. And you're going to have one ROM file per GPU in the rig. Then once we edit those and save it off to new files, then we will use WinSCP to transfer those new modified files back to your mining rig. And from there, we'll use sudo ATIflash -p and then the original GPU number, and that's why you ought to put the GPU number in the file name. I'll show you that in the demo coming up in just a second. And put that name of that file there, and it will put that file back into the BIOS of the GPU. And then you type sudo hard-reboot, and it will reboot the system. And as you see, there's another file down there called, or another command down there called sudo ATIflash -ai. This gives you a lot more information about each individual GPU, more so than just putting the I that we did in step number 1. So now let's go take a look at a demo of me performing all these functions. As you can see, I'm now logged into my desktop, and from my desktop, I'm going to go ahead and open a tool called PuTTY. PuTTY will allow me to connect to the desktop or console of my EthOS mining rig. So as you can see here, I've opened up PuTTY, and now I've already got a server named Partridge configured in my PuTTY console. So I open that up, and it opens up to my login prompt for my mining rig. So I'll put in my credentials, and then from there I will log into the console of my mining rig called Partridge. Now that I'm logged into Partridge, I'm going to do what's called a mine stop command to stop it mining, because you can see in the command prompt there it has a hash rate of so we know that it's mining. So I'll do mine stop. It's not miner stop, it's mine stop, and it will stop the mining process. From there, I'm going to do an ls -l, and that will show me a list of all the files that is on my hard drive right now. Now you can see at the top there, I have two files there, one AMD with a bunch of information and ORG for original, and AMD MOD for mod. Those are two files I created already for doing GPU number 1. So the next command I'm going to do is sudo ATIflash -ai. What this will do is this command will give me a listing of all the GPUs and a lot of information about the GPUs. So here you can see I have 0 through 8 because I have 9 GPUs in this mining rig at the time. So you can just see as I scroll through this, there's a ton of information about each individual GPU, and you can scroll through this at your own convenience and kind of look at it. So you can see there's 0, there's 1, and then down below is 2, and then 3, and so on. So from there, you can look through this, find out what data is there, and use it if you need it. The next command I'm going to do is a sudo ATIflash -i. The previous one was -ai, A for all, and this one is just for limited information. As you can see, it shows my 9 GPUs, and over on the far left, it shows me 0 to 9, or 0 to 8, sorry. That is the number of each one of the GPUs. So as you can see, I did an ls-l so I could see the naming convention that I used for naming my files, and I'm going to create what's called a ROM file of my GPU BIOS. So I'm going to type sudo ATIflash -s and then the GPU number. So in this case, we'll put in the number 0 because I haven't done 0 yet, and then I give it a file name. In this case, I did AMD _1 for _0 for GPU 0, and that's in the file name. The first 0 was telling it to do it on 0. This one is the actual name of the file. Then I put in a 580 because these are AMD 580s, and then a 8 gigs. The name of the rig is Partridge, and ORI is for original file, and .rom is the name of the file. So you can see it has created a ROM file for this particular ROM. So now I'm going to go back and hit the up arrow, and I'm going to basically pull the file out of my buffer, and I'm going to change the two zeros to twos for GPU2. And the first one, remember, is actually telling it to go get GPU2. The second one is the file name. So then I hit the up arrow again, and I'm going to change it to threes, and then I'll hit enter, and it will create another ROM file. And then I'll do it again for 4, and I'll do it again for 5. I'll do it again for 6, 7, and 8. And then we should have 9 files on the hard drive at the end when I do an ls-l. So let me get to the end here, and we'll do an ls-l in just a second to show you what files are on the hard drive. So now we've created those files, and now I did an ls-l, and you can see I have all the dot are the ones that have original in them, and then that one that's MOD because I did card number 1 already. So now we got to get all those ORG files to our PC. So now what you can see is I'm opening up WinSCP, and I've already got Partridge configured in there with its IP address, so we'll click on it and put in the password. On the right-hand side, you can see all the files that are on the mining rig. On the left-hand side, that is where I want to put the files on my PC. So I click the first one that I want, and then I'll hold the control key on my keyboard, and then click each one that I want. Or I can click that one and use the shift key, and then go back and get that last one with the control key, just for faster ease of use. Then I just click and highlight them, or hold on to them and drag them over to the other one, and you can see it copied them to my computer or my PC. So from there, we're going to open up the Polaris BIOS editor, which I already have on my computer. I've downloaded it, and we're going to open it. And then once I open it, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here so you guys can see it. So from there, what we'll do is we will open each one of those ROM files that we just copied over to my PC. So we'll hit the open button at the upper left-hand corner. Find the first file, which is the 0 one, because I've already done one, and then say open. And you'll see it bring in all kinds of information. That's all the information that we got from the GPU's BIOS and put it into that ROM file. So if you look through here, you'll see all kinds of information about the memory and what the timing is and everything, and the core speeds and all that. And what we really want to look at is that big section on the right-hand side there where my mouse is right now. As you can see in this particular one, there are 3 different timing straps that different manufacturers are put in there. If I click the button in the lower right-hand corner, it'll say, do I want to change this to 1500? And I'm going to keep hitting OK for all 3 times for all 3 manufacturers of timing. And you can see in the background it changed if you look closely. Then I'm going to hit the Save As, highlight the file name, and then change the ORG to MOD. So now I have an upgraded or modified file copy of that. So we have the original, and then we have the modified. So I'm going to go to open again, and I'm going to open the second one, file number 2, and notice it all comes in. And then I'm going to hit the button on the lower right-hand corner and just say OK on all of them. And then I'll go to the next one and I'll go to Save As, and I'll select the ORG file version of it. Then I'll change that ORG to MOD. And then I will hit save. So again, we've got the original file that we created on the mining rig, and then we're going to save it as a new file name called MOD. So we have the original in case we need it, and we have the new modified version and going back. And if you look closely here, I'm going to slide this over so you can watch the numbers in the background change when I hit OK. And then I do it again, and you'll see the numbers change in the background back here. Watch right there where my mouse is, and you can see them change down there. So it is changing all that code in there so that we have a timing strap of 1500 for all 3. Because what was happening to me was every time I'd boot these GPUs, all 9 GPUs would have a different hashing rate because they're all programmed by different manufacturers of code. So what you're doing is basically bringing them all to the same timing strap of 1500, and then when we finally reboot these GPUs again with the new modified BIOS, they should all run at the same speed. And I've already done this since before I created the video. All 9 GPUs are now running at 29 megahash with no overclocking and no underpowering. That's just straight up default. So that's actually a really good improvement considering I was all over the place. One GPU was 24, one was 25, a couple were 26, one was 27. They were all over the board. Now they're all at 29. So you continue on down through all these files, and notice that I'm just doing it for each one of them. Make sure you don't get them mixed up. Don't do a save as for a number 3 when you meant to do a number 4. It'll warn you when you get there. It'll say, hey, you're trying to put the wrong file onto the BIOS. But what you want to do is just make sure that you do it right for the first time so you don't have to go back and erase them all because you don't know which one is which, and then recreate them all and move them. And, I did that once. Ask me how I know why you don't want to do that, because then you get confused if you're not paying attention. So make sure you're in a quiet space where nobody's going to bother you, and you can just do it all in one shot, get it over with, and not have to remember where you were or what you were doing, because you'll get them confused, and you'll try to put the wrong one on the wrong GPU, and you'll end up with, error messages, and it might take you a few minutes to figure out what you did. I'm going to fast forward to the last one and pick up from there. Okay, so now let's save this very last one, and then get the files back over to our mining rig. So once we save this last one and change the name of the file to mod, now I'm going to open up WinSCP, and you can see all the modified files are there after I hit refresh. So you got to hit the refresh button up there, and then all the modified files will be over there. So over on the left, you can see the files on my PC. I'm going to use the control key and just click on each of the mod files. And I don't need the number 1 because I've already got the number 1 over there already. I've already finished that one. So we'll go ahead and do them all but the number 1. We'll highlight them, then we'll click and hold down the mouse button and drag it over to the right. And it's copying them to the mining rig. So now I'm going to go back into PuTTY. And then in PuTTY, so I'll go back into the console and I'll type ls-l. And that'll allow me to see all the files again. And you can see the mod files are there. Then I'm going to do a sudo ATIflash -p for put, and then I'll put a file name. Notice I'm going to go to the top, and I'm going to highlight the top one, the mod file, and then I'm just going to right click and it will paste it in. And you can see I'm taking the file for the zero, for the zero, and then it's going to put it onto it's going to send it after I hit enter to the BIOS of the GPU. And you can see it was successful, and it told you a bunch of information. If what you'll notice is I'm going to go ahead and try to do the number 1 GPU, which has already been flashed. I did that one as practice before I did the video. And what you're going to notice is it's going to say, hey, it's already programmed. And that's a way you'll know that you've already done that one in case you forgot which ones you've done. But as you can see here, it's still thinking, it's still putting that file on there, but now it just finished. Now, I didn't have to type it. I could have done an up arrow and just changed it, but I wanted to show you that I can cut and paste it again. And now I hit enter, and it will say, hey, you've already done this. So now I'm going to move on to the number 2. And again, I don't have to type this. I could hit the up arrow, or I can type it and do a cut and paste, whichever makes you feel more comfortable, whichever one you're more used to. So here I am highlighting, and then we'll paste and hit enter. And it takes a few seconds once you hit enter for it to put all the information back into the BIOS. So as you can see, it's trying to put the information in, whereas on the number 1 one, it was already done and said, hey, you've already done this. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the end of the last one to save you the boredom of me doing all the rest of these because it's the same over and over and over again. Okay, so here we are. We're at the end after the last GPU, so all the GPUs have been BIOSed. And then I'm going to use the R command to reboot the system. And then it should come back up with all of the GPUs running at an even speed for each one of them. And also it should get a couple more megahash each out of each one of your GPUs. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And I hope it helps you get your AMD GPUs running at top speed. Please share this video and our site BitCoinBeginner.Rocks with everyone in your circle. This is Paul Stryer. Good day.